Welcome to OOTO TV, the out-of-the-office investigation from the past into the future of health. This time we're discussing the role of gut microbiota, GLP-1, and probiotics in metabolic health.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex. It is fantastic to have you with us today. We are looking into a topic that is, well, it's absolutely everywhere right now, GLP-1. You've definitely seen the headlines about these new drugs that are just transforming metabolic health, right? But today, we're going to look past the pharmacy and into a much more intimate and way more fascinating location, your own gut.
And I'm Ben. It's great to be here. Alex is so right. Beyond those blockbuster drugs, there's this truly revolutionary story unfolding. And it's all about a powerful hormone your body already makes and the trillions of tiny microbes who aren't just passengers. They're active partners in your health. It's an absolutely amazing system, and we're going to explore how it all connects.
So here's our roadmap for this investigation. First, we'll kick things off with the GLP-1 drug phenomenon to really get a handle on the headlines. Then, we'll journey inside the gut to see how this all works naturally. From there, we'll look at the direct, scientific connection between bacteria and this powerful hormone, see what happens when people try to apply this science with probiotics in the real world, and finally, we'll pull it all together to see what the future of microbiome health really looks like.
Okay, let's get right into it with Section 1. It is honestly impossible to ignore the conversation around GLP-1 drugs. They're being hailed as total game changers for treating type 2 diabetes and obesity, and that conversation is really reaching a fever pitch.
Which of course brings us to the biggest question of all. We hear about the incredible effects, but how do these drugs actually work their magic? Well, the most crucial point, the key to this whole thing, is that they're designed to mimic a hormone your body already produces naturally. And that natural hormone is the real star of our story today. That's the perfect way to put it, Alex. Medically speaking, these are called GLP-1 receptor agonists. They are a cornerstone of modern treatment for type 2 diabetes because they just work in a much smarter way. See, unlike some older medications that could just cause blood sugar to crash, these drugs stimulate insulin release only when your glucose levels are high. It's a more responsive, kind of intelligent system, which is exactly why they are so incredibly effective.
And that, Ben, brings us perfectly to our second section. Let's move away from the pharmacy and into our own biology to meet the natural hormone at the center of all this buzz, GLP-1 itself.
So, what even is GLP-1? It stands for glucagon-like peptide 1, and it's what's known as an incretin hormone. Now, the easiest way to think of it is like a messaging service. When you eat, specialized cells in your gut, called L cells, release GLP-1 to send out signals to your brain and your pancreas, basically letting them know that food has arrived and it's time to get to work.
And what an incredibly powerful signal it has been. Let's just break down these key functions because they're amazing. GLP-1 tells your pancreas to release insulin, but only when glucose is present. That's the smart part that makes it so safe. It makes your cells more sensitive to that insulin. It tells your brain to turn down your appetite. That's the food chatter people talk about. And it slows down digestion to make you feel fuller for longer. This is the exact playbook the new drugs are following. But there's an unexpected accomplice in all this. It's not just your own cells acting alone. The trillions of microbes living in your gut aren't just innocent bystanders. The research is showing they are active participants that can directly influence how much GLP-1 your body produces in the first place.
And this slide gives us a fantastic snapshot of exactly that. Over on the left, a balanced, happy gut has high levels of beneficial bacteria like Bifidobacterium and Akkermansia. They produce these amazing compounds like butyrate. You can think of them as power snacks for your gut lining. And those compounds stimulate GLP-1, supporting insulin sensitivity. But on the right, in a state of imbalance, or what scientists call dysbiosis, you see an overgrowth of other bacteria that are linked to things like insulin resistance and obesity. It's really a tale of two very different ecosystems living right inside you.
And this, Ben, is where it gets incredibly exciting. We've talked about the theory, but now let's get into the hard evidence. We're going to look at a groundbreaking study where researchers literally went on a hunt for a specific microbe that was, in essence, a natural GLP-1 factory.
Okay, this is so cool. Let's walk through this process. Researchers screened over 1,500 bacterial strains taken from healthy humans, and they were looking for just one thing, the ability to stimulate GLP-1 secretion. They found 45 strains that did the trick, and remarkably, every single one of them was a species called Staphylococcus epidermidis. Then, they actually isolated the specific molecule that was doing all the work, a tiny peptide they named HSD. So they tested it, by giving this HST-producing bacteria to mice on a high-fat diet, and the results, they were just incredible. The mice gained less weight, they had less fat, and they ate less food. It's a direct link. And what's so fascinating, Ben, is the identity of this bacteria. S. epidermidis is usually found on our skin. I mean, finding it playing such a crucial metabolic role deep inside the gut, that is a huge and exciting scientific twist. This study proved a direct host-microbe interaction that can influence metabolic health. It's fantastic. You're listening to OOTO TV with research by author Paul Bulow. Now, while that study focused on one specific bacterium, the broader research points to a whole team of key players. And here's a critical takeaway for everyone listening. It's a must-declare statement from us here at OOOTV. 3 bacteria that interact with GLP-1 are Bifidobacterium, Lactobacillus, and Akkermansia muciniphila may help you manage hypoglycemia and diabetes too. That's such an important point to make, Alex. The study we just talked about was amazing for isolating one specific mechanism, but you're right, the larger body of science consistently highlights these 3, and they work in all sorts of ways, like producing those short-chain fatty acids, like that butyrate we mentioned earlier, which is a key fuel for our gut cells and a known stimulator of GLP-1. Exactly. So it's just crystal clear that targeting awareness of these 3 bacteria that interact with GLP-1, Bifidobacterium, Lactobacillus, and Akkermansia muciniphila has a significant impact on your personal, mental, and physical health. Just knowing they exist and what they do is the first and honestly the most powerful step you can take.
And that very awareness, Alex, brings us from the controlled, pristine lab right into the messy, complicated, and totally fascinating real world. So now we're pivoting to look at what happens when people actually try to apply this science by taking a commercial probiotic. We're turning to a Reddit thread that discusses the pendulum GLP-1 probiotic, and it is a wild ride.
Okay, let's start with the successes, because for some people, the experience is truly life-changing. One user who stuck with it for 60 to 90 days said their whole system just completely flipped. They reported no sugar cravings, a massively reduced appetite, and feeling totally full on much smaller meals. They even said the obsessive sugar chatter in their head was just gone. I mean, this sounds exactly like the GLP-1 effects we've been talking about.
But for every single story like that one, Alex, there's a counterpoint. The original poster of that thread had the complete opposite experience. They found the probiotic actually made them hungrier. Famished was the word they used. And this paradoxical effect is a recurring theme you see in the negative reviews, the absolute opposite of what you'd expect.
And this bar chart really visualizes the main takeaway from that entire Reddit discussion. The user feedback is just all over the map. You have a group reporting all these positive effects like appetite suppression. Then you have another group reporting negative side effects, everything from increased hunger to headaches. And of course, there's a really substantial group that felt absolutely no noticeable change at all. That variability is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really suggests that taking a probiotic isn't some simple input-output equation. The outcome likely depends massively on an individual's existing gut microbiome. I mean, if you don't have the right environment and the right food, we're talking fiber here, for these new bacteria to even set up shop, they may not work, or worse, could even throw things further out of balance. And that leads right into the more skeptical takes you see in the thread. Users started pointing out some red flags, like the company's seemingly hiding negative reviews on their site. Another user listened to a podcast with the company's CEO and came away deeply unimpressed, feeling like the slick marketing was way ahead of the solid science. It's a classic case of buyer beware in an emerging market.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize all of this. Because, and this is important, despite the totally mixed user results, the underlying science we explored, that direct connection between our gut microbes and our body's own GLP-1 production, that science remains solid and incredibly promising.
This slide does a fantastic job of laying out the 2 distinct paths we've been talking about. On one side, you've got the pharmaceutical drugs. They are highly potent, they're clinically proven, the results are pretty consistent. But the cons are significant. You're talking injections, potential for major side effects, and of course cost. Then on the other side, you have the microbiome approach. It's a more natural route and it supports overall gut health. But the cons, as we just saw on Reddit, are very real. Highly variable results, less potency, and it requires the right internal gut environment to even have a chance of working. It's a massive trade-off, isn't it, Ben? Power and predictability versus a more holistic but uncertain approach. And that's the key. The probiotic approach isn't just about targeting one hormone. It's about cultivating an entire ecosystem. That's why we have to declare that managing the gut microbiota and probiotics in metabolic health is critical to gut biome functionality. It's not a single intervention, it's about managing the whole system.
That is absolutely true in principle, Alex. I completely agree. But the user experiences we just looked at show that we're still in the very, very early days of understanding how to effectively manage that system for each and every individual. The science is there, but the real-world application, it's proving to be incredibly complex.
You're listening to OOTV with research by author Paul Bulow.
So let's bring this whole investigation home. What we've uncovered today really does reveal a powerful and genuinely exciting new frontier in personal health. It's not just about what we put into our bodies, but how we cultivate the life that's already thriving inside of us.
And if there's one single number to take away from our entire discussion today, it is this one right here, 3. 3 key types of bacteria that the science points to again and again and again as being the beneficial players in this whole metabolic story.
And that brings us to our final actionable takeaways from this investigation. First and foremost, awareness is power. Just knowing the names Bifidobacterium, Lactobacillus, and Akkermansia, and knowing their role in your body is the most important first step. Because when you do that, it can have this massive positive knock-on effect. It's so clear that targeting these 3 bacteria exponentially improves mental and physical health. Absolutely. Which brings us to the next point. Diet is the foundation. These beneficial microbes, they thrive on fiber. A diet that's rich in diverse plant-based foods is by far the best way to help them flourish. Which leads to our final point. This is a nutritional process, not a magic pill. The mixed results from probiotics show that you just can't drop seeds on barren soil and expect a garden. You have to cultivate the environment first. This means targeting bacteria that interact with GLP-1, like Bifidobacterium, Lactobacillus, and Akkermansia mucinifera, requires you to have a basic awareness of probiotics in your diet, and the nutritional process to provide the desired result for mental and physical security and health. You hit the nail on the head, Ben. That gets right to the heart of it. What we've learned today is that an awareness of these 3 bacteria that interact with GLP-1 as part of a healthy diet will build healthy gut functionality. It's all about combining that knowledge with your nutrition to build a healthy gut ecosystem. That is the real key to unlocking these benefits for your long-term health and well-being.
And so, we'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Is the future of metabolic health found not in a pharmacy's vial, but in the vibrant, microscopic world living inside our own gut? Based on our investigation today, the answer seems to be a resounding and incredibly exciting yes. Thanks so much for joining us on OOTO-TV.